A very odd thing happens sometimes when people talk about Sasuke's character, and that's that they don't so much talk about his whole character as they do hyper-focus on a section of it. Usually the first half of Shippuden up until Itachi's death. If you're lucky, they'll include the 5 Kage summits. This isn't even unique to people saying he's a bad character. But that approach ignores 2 very important parts of his arc, part 1 of Naruto and the war arc. Yeah, the beginning and the end seem kind of important. I already made a video about part 1 Sasuke on his last birthday and you should check it out. It's basically part 1 of this video. In this video, I will go over Sasuke in Shippuden to identify the growth of his character through it, the logic of his decisions throughout the story, and the reason I think the story kinda dropped the ball at the end. And no, I'm not talking about Kaguya. But despite all that, I still think he's the best character in the story. After making those who cared wait a year, we're back to the continuation of my analysis of Uchiha Sasuke. Who knows, I might be compelled to make a part 3 for whatever the hell's going on in Boruto. That's a very weak maybe though. With all that being said, let's begin.
Now you'll see I can be heartless.
As I said in the last video, Sasuke's potential as a character was high after he left to join Orochimaru. He really could have become anything afterwards. And what he did become was... well, I honestly couldn't tell you how surprising it was because I'm very far removed from my emotions at the time. At this point, when I think about Sasuke in Shippuden, all I can think is, yes, that's exactly what I know happens to his character. Sasuke becomes cold and stoic. Having resolved to not let things like bonds and attachments slow him down or confuse his goal, he's moving forward to get what he wants. Revenge. There is one small moment that's either character breaking or a lie though, or Kishimoto trying to generate hype from the audience at how serious things have gotten.
I only spared your life on a whim, nothing more. My whim is telling me to finish what I started.
This is a bald-faced lie, especially when you put it into the context of his future actions. Despite everything, Sasuke has still retained his morals when it comes to good and evil, and killing people who weren't reprehensible wasn't it. Orochimaru's training dummies, I mean ninja, the curse mark prisoners, hell, he didn't even try to kill Kabuto. It's hard for me to call his no killing except really bad people rule a retcon because it isn't. He tells Naruto he spared him on a whim and could kill him on a whim, but that's just not true. He spared Naruto despite the promise of power because he didn't want to be like his brother who he considered evil, and over time that morphed into not wanting to kill in general. It's easy to see he's lying when he remembers that he was told he has to kill his best friend to get stronger, and then claims he did everything, even leave Naruto alive, for power. Not sure what his plan was if Orochimaru didn't stop him though. In the moment, it does exactly what it's supposed to do, show Naruto just how far he is from Sasuke, both from a power perspective and in his life.
How did you... So this is where all that power is coming from. Interesting.
As for Sasuke saying he doesn't know who Madara is, was he lying or did Kishimoto forget that Madara's existence isn't a secret? That's more of a toss-up. I don't think it would be too much to say Sasuke is trying to scare them off with his behavior, even reminding Naruto of his dream to be Hokage and telling him to go focus on that or risk getting killed on a whim. Even his supposed murder attempts are lackluster compared to what we know he can do. But Naruto's interpretation of the office of Hokage won't let him give up so easily. Another thing Sasuke was lying about, his willingness to give his body to Orochimaru. When he was younger, it was genuine, but given he'd been training to get stronger away from his master's eyes and he'd long observed how deplorable a person he was, at this point I fully believe he was already contemplating how to kill him. But once Sasuke has cut down the snake, it's time for his journey to commence. And that's where Hebi, soon to be known as Taka, come in. Personally, I consider this group lost potential within the manga, but that's a subject for another video. Despite Sasuke's desire to not be held down by his bonds, he isn't so arrogant as to think he can do everything alone. So to that end, he goes around recruiting people he's noted from his time under Orochimaru. Suigetsu, Jugo, Karen. From a narrative point of view, Taka exists to draw more characterization out of Sasuke. His interactions with his team of oddballs and the orders he gives them lend to our understanding of where his mind is right now. You don't have to follow me if you don't want to. Don't kill the curse mark prisoners. You can fight alongside me, but Itachi is mine. Several aspects of Sasuke's character would be left up in the air without his team to bounce off of. His calmness in the face of tolerating others and desire to not force them to do what he wants, his strict no-killing policy, his, for lack of a better term, gentleness and consideration for others.
So he gets it. I want you to go out there and release everyone who's being held prisoner.
Regardless of what he eventually becomes, this version of Sasuke still has a very clear moral code, even if his ultimate goal is fratricide. Itachi is both Sasuke's motivation and the chink in his armor. Plus, being in situations like having to retrieve Zabuza's blade from the Land of Waves make it clear that despite what he may have said, he's still fond of his memories with Team 7. Bantering with Suigetsu, reassuring Jugo, reacting to Karin, there's still a human being under all that brooding. A human who doesn't recognize a tsundere when he sees one. I'll be honest, his interactions with Taka are pretty funny. So is Sasuke using catnip to appeal to ninja cats before kneeling before granny cats while buying supplies. Another thing that reveals traits of the new Sasuke is his fight with Deidara, where we realize just how dangerous Sasuke has become, and how strict his sort of no-kill policy really is. Once Deidara is no longer a threat, he has no intention of actually killing him, simply wanting any information on Itachi's location. This also reveals the trend of comparing Sasuke to Itachi through opponents. Where Orochimaru was reminded of the feeling of Itachi seeing through him, Deidara's offended by the fact that Sasuke doesn't see him as a priority, seeing him as just like his brother. So he rage quits life and starts a ridiculous debate in the Naruto community. If you beat your opponent and they kill themselves trying to take you with them, does that really count as a win? I mean, it obviously does, but you'll be surprised the conclusion some would come to. Also, on a less character and more awesome shonen fight level, Sasuke's scientific approach to dismantling Deidara's jutsu and winning the fight is just cool. Another thing to note, Sasuke using Manga is still consistent with his no-kill rule, considering Manga demands hundreds of human sacrifices in exchange for being Orochimaru's summon. Sasuke is usually gentle with animals. But like I said a year ago, this is just who Sasuke is now. So, let's talk about who he becomes.
To accept and adopt Itachi's intention would be childish. The foolish sputtering of those who don't know hatred.
The first turning point of Sasuke's character during Shippuden was his much anticipated fight with Itachi. Itachi, a shinobi who sacrificed so much for the village and for his brother, sacrificed himself in order to make Sasuke a hero. Itachi is said to have been a great shinobi, not just in skill but in mindset. But he was a great shinobi in a flawed system that encouraged shinobi to cut out their hearts and act as tools for the village and mission. Itachi may have been motivated by love, but he wielded himself as a tool to strike down his clan and his brother as a tool to strike him down. But Sasuke didn't see Itachi as a tool. Having left the village in pursuit of his own goals, Sasuke didn't care for the notion of shinobi being tools for the village. And once he learned the truth, all he saw was an image Itachi never considered for himself. Itachi Uchiha, the child soldier pressured into killing his family. So the idea that the Uchiha genocide is an acceptable action of the village never once even crossed Sasuke's mind. And really, why should it? Sasuke may love his brother, but he didn't agree with him. Sasuke kind of has a reputation of having supposedly flip-flopping motivations and shifting his targets as the story goes on. These criticisms kind of miss the point of his character. In actuality, Sasuke only significantly changes his goal once, during the war arc. The crux of Sasuke's character development is adapting from what he learns of the world, changing from his relatively black and white view of it to a more nuanced understanding of how complicated things are. His flaw is that for most of the series, he's too blinded by rage to make positive decisions about what he learns, so instead he has a negative character arc. He starts out believing the death of his family was just the malicious act of one person, but when he learns Itachi wasn't just an evil person, but a child pressured into killing his family, he expands his target to the village. Was it an emotionally driven decision? Of course. But like Sasuke said, if you think he's being childish, let's kill your whole family in front of you and see how you feel. This is also why he doesn't try to kill Obito. Sasuke is looking at the bigger picture of why the massacre happened, not just who did it. Obito only helped because Itachi coerced him to. Sasuke no longer blames Itachi for the impossible situation he was put in, so it makes no sense to target someone Itachi coerced into helping him. Like I said, Sasuke's arc is born from the things he learns, but it's important to note how he learns it. I'll go into more detail later, but keep in mind that while Obito told the truth, at least around Itachi, it was still Obito telling the truth in a way to better fit his goals. For instance, his telling of Madara's backstory more frames Konoha as the aggressor against the Uchiha who wanted peace so bad they were willing to oppose their leader. A lie? No, but the way it's told is important. Also, he hides the truth of the Nine Tails attack that intensified the conflict. I mean, with all the lies Itachi told Sasuke, it's not too difficult for him to state that one of the few truths was also a lie. There's a reason Obito gives Sasuke a history lesson. It frames the conflict as bigger than just his clan, but encompassing the creation of the village as a whole. Sasuke's decision to target the entirety of Konoha is born from his anger that the village avoided civil war and conflict by having his family killed and making his brother bear the burden and reputation of killing them. It's not a good decision, but given his headspace, you can see why he came to that conclusion. But don't misunderstand, Sasuke is wrong. In the same way the Uchiha massacre was a bad thing, Sasuke's planned massacre was equally bad. But in Sasuke's mind, the Leaf's corruption would only end once there was no Leaf, thriving on the peace built on his family's graves. Sasuke's hate and rage is a culmination of all the injustices against his clan. The turbulence of the creation of the village, leading to unjust discrimination, leading to a planned coup, leading to a massacre, leading to Sasuke spending so much of his life planning to kill his brother. This version of Sasuke is pretty much an embodiment of injustice in an angry teenage boy with enough power to level a city. That's part of the reason Naruto doesn't see just killing him as a solution. Killing your problems never work in this series. They usually just find a way to survive and get worse. And Naruto is the only one to acknowledge that. Everyone else is either too ignorant as to why Sasuke is doing any of this or not really trying to look at it from his perspective. Telling him to give up on revenge after all that's happened as though it's such a simple thing for him to do isn't just wrong, it's laughable. It's also notable that Sasuke's ultimatum to Naruto is so similar to Itachi's plan. Kill me and become Konoha's hero. Sure, the context is different, but still. When Sasuke infiltrates the Kage summit, Danzo reprimands him for wasting Itachi's sacrifice. But that idea ignores the fact that the sacrifice was being blackmailed into murdering their family for Konoha's benefit. Why would Sasuke care to honor it? If Itachi can torture and torment Sasuke despite his wishes for Sasuke's own good, why can't Sasuke avenge him despite his wishes? Sasuke is not interested in peace but at the cost of everyone he knows and loves for the sake of people who marginalize them. So Sasuke joins the Akatsuki and becomes a criminal. He even infiltrates the 5 Kage summit. He didn't attack it, but it kind of attacked him back. Also, he kills people now. When his view on the world was more black and white, Sasuke had separations on who he thought was worth killing. But in the more grey world he lives in now, those separations are more arbitrary, as now whole institutions can be considered evil, and so can the people blindly supporting them. Also, personally, I think the Kage he comes into the most conflict with were chosen specifically because of who they were. The Raikage, who tried to have Hinata kidnapped for reasons that at best involved mutilating her, and at worst could get this video demonetized, which led to Neji's dad's death. And Gaara, who, well, we all watched the Chunin exams arc, and we don't even know what the Tsuchikage and Mizukage may have done, but it's extremely unlikely Konoha is unique in its darkness. Honestly, Sasuke killing the samurai guards is a more morally contentious act for me than fighting any of the Kage. Legally, he's a criminal, but since when has anyone cared about the in-universe legality of a character's actions? But speaking of the Kage summit, there is one action I feel great need to talk about.
Don't move, Cutting. Hold still.
This decision is more complicated than you'd first assume. No, really. It all ties back to Sasuke's conflict in part 1, bonds and how they may weaken you. Honestly, I should make a video about Taka, but that's not this. It's made very clear in the Killer Bee fight that Sasuke has come to think of his new team in the same way he thought of Team 7. He even does everything he can and learns to control Amaterasu better than Itachi ever could to save Karin's life, insisting on staying to try and put it out before it kills her. I have a headcanon that Amaterasu doesn't burn as hot if the wielder doesn't want it to, When Itachi burns his way out of the toad's stomach in part 1, the fire stops spreading and burning once the hole is big enough for him and Kisame to escape, but straight up putting it out is unprecedented. But there is a problem, because in the haste to save Karin, Sasuke cut off one of Beast's tentacles, allowing the ninja to escape capture. They failed because Sasuke prioritized saving one of his teammates. It's his nightmare scenario where his bonds distract him from his goal. So as they fight through the Kage summit, with the number one person Sasuke wants to kill in sight, Sasuke becomes more callous with Taka, being willing to cut them loose the second they become dead weight. It's more of Sasuke's negative character arc, only validated by his success. But it also means that he's starting to see others as tools as he goes down the rabbit hole of his insanity. Speaking of Danzo, he's a character that kind of frustrates me. He exists as basically everything that can go wrong in Konoha's ideology. But none of the main characters besides Sasuke have to deal with that because Sasuke kills him. This feeds into a problem I bring up at the end of the video, but the fact that he's dead means there's less about Sasuke's point for the others to go off on. I mean, think about it. How would they confront Sasuke if the man with his arm full of his clan's eyes was standing right there next to them? Especially one who also clearly has designs on Naruto, a loyal Konoha shinobi. And Danzo is just such a perfect lighter for Sasuke's rage, to the point where Sasuke doesn't feel the need to listen to his explanation about his arm because that'll just make him angrier. Danzo is also the first instance of Sasuke trying to get someone to deny what happened. Even though he knows in his heart that it's true, he asks both Danzo and Hiruzen for confirmation in the hopes he might have been deceived. But he wasn't. All Danzo does is insist that shinobi must sacrifice themselves, which pisses Sasuke off enough to kill him. The first time. Danzo's the kind of guy who will kill someone who witnessed him commit a crime, then insist you can't tell anyone because that would be a waste of their quote-unquote sacrifice. Then again, what else can you expect from someone who lost the staring contest with 12 eyes? Danzo's probably the most dehumanizing example of the approach to seeing shinobi as tools, having the Uchiha killed for fear of their power, while taking that power for himself in service of the village and his ideals. The fight between the two is also another example of Sasuke's scientific approach to breaking down his opponent's weaknesses before laying the final blow. And because of his understanding and respect for the power of the Uchiha, he's able to defeat someone spamming their most powerful jutsu with a simple genjutsu, all while fighting an opponent who's immortal for 10 minutes. But this is not the be-all end-all of Sasuke's journey, as he still has much more learning to do. Learning from the one who started him down this path of hate, foolishly believing he could control his brother forever as an act of kindness, Itachi.
I took advantage of the hatred inside you. That's why I failed.
And I do mean it when I say Itachi assumed he could control his brother forever. His plan to use Koto and Matsukami to control Sasuke is both a sign that while he was alive, he didn't really care for Sasuke's free will, but also that he didn't understand his brother. He thought that Sasuke would implant his eyes immediately after their battle, but Sasuke didn't seek out the power of the Eternal Mangekyo until he had a reason to. After all, he wasn't really seeing eye to eye with his brother. I must remind you that Obito was the one who told Sasuke Itachi's story, but now we see it from Itachi's point of view, with less of a focus on his trauma and the ultimatum and more on his desire for there to simply be no conflict, including the fact that there was a plan that didn't involve the massacre that got ruined by Danzo's distrust. Before, Sasuke was operating on the information that Itachi was coerced. Itachi's decision to save Sasuke despite his orders and threaten to leak information about Konoha should Sasuke not be safe meant that Itachi valued Sasuke more than Konoha. But now Itachi's actual value of the village is more apparent to him after his fight with Kabuto. The fight between Sasuke, Itachi and Kabuto is a fight between three people who let so much of themselves be defined by others. Itachi had become a tool for the village and attempted to wield his brother like a tool. Kabuto was so defined by Orochimaru that his attempt to become his own person essentially involved turning into the snake. And Sasuke was defined by the embers of his past. The injustice, the suffering, the pain, it all drove his decisions. His love for his family, his love for Itachi, his hate for Itachi. An identity he could only truly see now, as Itachi also finally started to truly see him at the same time. And what Sasuke realized was that despite everything, he still needs more information. He needs to understand what a village is and what its value is supposed to be. And in that, he must also learn who he is. To that end, he revives Orochimaru to do something for him, bring the previous Hokage back with Edo Tensei. Where better to get information than the source? I have another video planned discussing this scene, Tobirama, and the general failures of the hidden villages as a whole. But when it comes to Sasuke, you only need to pay attention to the general failure part. Because the hidden villages completely failed to do what they were meant to do: foster peace, keep children from dying on the battlefield, protect clans from conflict. Basically everything the villages made worse. Now Sasuke realizes that it isn't just Itachi forced to massacre his plan. It's not just Danzo preaching that the shinobi's place is to sacrifice in the dark. It isn't even just Konoha where all this began. The entire system the world is built on is flawed. Even before Madara's current madness, there had been 3 shinobi wars that did nothing but increase the crop of criminals the Akatsuki could use. Hell, the 3rd Hokage's speech during the Chunin exams where children kill each other was about how it was basically a proxy war during a tenuous peace. And this is the point where I'd say that Sasuke's mindset has significantly changed. He isn't after revenge and his anger has mostly cooled. He started off as a boy seeking retribution for the injustice of a single person, then the injustice of his village, and now he's looking beyond just that and just his village, to the world and the suffering it spreads to everyone. Now he wants to fix the system by replacing it with something that works. The Avenger has become a revolutionary. In the same way he goes from wanting to kill those who personally ended his clan to those who ordered it, he no longer shows animosity towards Konoha. He would seek justice for his clan, but not by killing those who ostracized them. They are just more victims of the shinobi system and the shinobi condition that must change. And anyone who dies in the process of that change will only die because it's what it will take to reach that point, not because it will satisfy Sasuke's desire for retribution. And what is it that actually works when it comes to getting the shinobi villages to actually come together without backstabbing? Well, you simply need to go to the battlefield to see it. An insurmountable threat, so great they can't even afford to fight each other. After all, there's no guarantee that this alliance they formed will remain after Madara and Obito are gone. And you know what? If you look at the real world, he's kind of right. I mean, look at the USA and the USSR after World War II. Sasuke no longer wants to be defined by his past, but to look to the future. This is Sasuke's conclusion, and it's extremely hypocritical considering this is yet another decision defined by his past and his relationship with his brother. Itachi protected Konoha by becoming a criminal who took on the darkness of the village. In Sasuke's mind, that made Itachi's actions more fitting of the title of Hokage. And by killing the Kage, Naruto, and anyone who tried to stop him, Sasuke could become the heat sink to distract the world from fighting each other. An all-powerful threat for the sake of peace. No need for battles, no need for war. Just fear and peace. When Sasuke thinks of the Hokage, he looks at the world through its conflicts and concludes that the only one who can protect the people is the one who can accept hatred for the sake of others. But to do that without letting that hatred spread, you must truly be alone. No family, no friends, no loose ends. All he had to do was accomplish what Itachi never could and prove he could kill the one closest to him. He then proceeded to spend the war protecting his teammates, even before Naruto became a literal necessity for winning after they got 6 parts power. I see you shielding Naruto. I see you protecting Sakura. Sasuke consciously knows what he thinks he has to do, but he still moves to save his team. Even Naruto, who recently gained the power to read others' emotions, attributes Sasuke saving him to the whole moving without thinking thing he did so many chapters ago. Sasuke doesn't want to kill Naruto, but he thinks he has to. This video has been about Sasuke, but the Naruto elements cannot be overlooked. While Sasuke has learned from his experiences, Naruto has done the same, and his conclusion is that peace is possible without Sasuke's ultimatum, so long as people can come to understand each other. So he resolves to keep fighting until Sasuke understands that. Where Itachi taught Sasuke darkness, he taught Naruto about the impossibility of being alone. Naruto's initial plan after the 5 Kage summits was to shoulder everything himself. Sasuke's hatred, the burden of the war, everything. But Itachi told him that that was simply not sustainable. Sasuke may be kind of right, but he's still wrong. His existence will not end conflict between people the way he imagines. After all, he has no intention to be so active a threat as Madara and Obito proved to be. In his own way, he's simply following the old system of sustaining darkness in order to run the world, assuming he can carry everything himself, killing people in the name of peace. Conversely, Naruto knew that even through violence, one could come to understand others, be it by fighting alongside them or against them.
When I see you take on stuff and get all messed up, it kinda, well, hurts me.
And in time, Sasuke came to understand what Naruto was trying to tell him in the way Naruto had always come to understand his opponents, and in the way Naruto had come to understand Sasuke. Sasuke more than shouldn't shoulder the burden. He can't. Burdens are much easier to carry when shared. In Naruto, a shinobi is meant to endure, but one can't endure alone. Sasuke's attempt to sacrifice himself on the altar of peace would not have been the solution he thought it was.
Sometimes two people who appear to be complete opposites are actually two sides of the same coin and can only succeed when they work together.
The title of this video says that Sasuke's arc was almost perfect, and now I will explain why I feel that way. Of course, nothing is truly perfect, but even beyond that, my problem isn't with Sasuke as himself, but with his thematic placement. Naruto has a big dualism theme going for it. There's a reason that there are so many rivals in it. And learning from their past transmigrants, Naruto and Sasuke need to learn not to focus everything on one person, but that true peace can only come through cooperation. And for what it's going for, it works well. But I believe that the ending is missing Sasuke's contribution. After all, as it stands, it kind of feels less like two people working together towards an answer and more like Sasuke submitting to Naruto's solution, which isn't bad, but only if you take out the context of the duality theme. Naruto insists that Sasuke can't redeem himself by death but must stay alive and help him, but how does he help? Outside of being a detective and a soldier, what does Sasuke's inclusion change about the functioning of the shinobi world? And it's not like Sasuke doesn't have unique experiences to draw from. The series kind of sweeps Danzo under the rug, but the only character who can really respond to him is the one who talked with and fought him. Like I said, it's kind of a problem Naruto never has to deal with him. And to me, the biggest example of this is Boruto's circumstances. Because if there's anyone who knows why the villages were formed, and who should have a hand in changing the way the current system uses children as ninja, it's Sasuke. That could have been Sasuke's contribution. But then Boruto couldn't be a child in the sequel, and if we're gonna have a Shonen Jump sequel about an adult, why even make it about Naruto's kid? Naruto may have brought understanding, but Sasuke should have brought a revolution of sorts. And this isn't me being upset that the story didn't go how I wanted. Sasuke's entire character hasn't gone the way I wanted since the fight on the hospital roof. Despite what I've said earlier, I would not have written 5 Kage summoned Sasuke the way he turned out. But I could still accept it as a part of a story and even think it was pretty good. I can accept Sasuke as the Hokage shadow and even enjoy the arcs where we see him go out in the world and receive more insight. But I don't think this was the best possible endpoint to bring his character to. Character-wise, Sasuke is great. His whole redemption journey, off screen because the story wasn't really about his redemption, is a good aspect of his character. But when it comes to the story as a whole, Naruto's always felt like something's missing in its end. Like the experiences Sasuke had haven't been truly addressed the way they should have outside of defeating Sasuke, who, yes, was meant to be a representation of Naruto's obstacles, but was still just a representation. And I kind of blame Boruto, not because of the story being good or bad, but because the story can't really exist the way it does if the shinobi world truly gets the revolution it deserves. There's a reason a section of Naruto fans expect the 5 villages to devolve back into war after Konoha's overpowered duo die. Well, I guess they'll have to wait longer for the overpowered people of the next generation to die too. Also, there's a question of if the truth of the Uchiha massacre is a secret. I imagine it can't be without people being really confused about everything Sasuke does after Itachi dies, and I really hope it isn't. I don't care if it damages Konoha's reputation. Konoha should not come before the people it's supposed to protect. Those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. Despite all this, Sasuke is still my favorite character in the series, not just because he's cool and has great fights, but because of the trajectory his story takes as a whole and the way he develops from an angry boy into a man with a better understanding of the world. It isn't a clean development, but one fraught with pain and anger that pushes him down the wrong path before being set on the right one. And that's why Uchiha Sasuke, is the best character in all of Naruto. God, this video is long. Please reward my efforts by hitting the like button and commenting your thoughts down below. Also subscribe for more content. Thank you and good day.